There's only four Big 12 teams in that top 25, but the first three out are all Big 12 teams. If you look at that others receiving votes, you've got BYU, Utah, and Baylor right there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no consolation prize in football, right? It is what it is. But you could look at this as, oh man, only four Big 12 teams are in the top 25. But you could also say, man, seven Big 12 teams are in the top 28. According to voters right now. And I think that speaks to what you and I have talked about all offseason, the depth and the chaos of this Big 12 conference, that anybody can win it, that anybody can beat anybody. And, of course, Colorado and TCU a little further down that list receiving votes as well.
I have a theory on the Big 12 this year, and I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think it's quite possible that the quarterback play is really going to be important for this conference because there's a ton of attention on these great quarterbacks that are returning, and we're looking from a unique season from Big 12 quarterbacks, and it's sexy and it's drawing a lot of eyeballs. And if those quarterbacks can deliver and make the Big 12 one of the conferences that people are talking about, right? I believe this. I believe that could push maybe a third team into the college football playoff, can give the conference a little bit more juice to everyone involved in creating these polls and obviously creating the 12-team playoff race. I think that can really help. So these quarterbacks, they need to deliver this year. They really do. And I think if they do, it can really raise the standard and the standing of the conference. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think I'm totally out of my mind, or do you do?
Yeah. Disclaimer to steel man your argument here a little bit. What the AP voters think doesn't matter at all. What matters is that college football playoff committee. And remember, the guy chairing that committee this year is one Mac Rhodes of Baylor University. So I know that doesn't actually help you. Mac's a professional, but what they think matters. Here's where I think you're crazy. I think I told you last week I struggle to see two Big 12 teams getting in just because I think this conference is just going to poach each other. There's going to be upsets every week. They're going to eat. Everybody's going to eat everybody alive. Like, I think the Big 12 champion very likely has 2 or 3 losses, and it's just hard for me to see two teams from the Big 12 with 2 or 3 losses sneaking in. We've talked about a couple scenarios where that might be feasible. So 3 teams seems crazy. Here's the other reason that seems crazy. If getting into the playoff was about star power of an individual, then Colorado gets in last year. You had the Heisman winner and a Heisman finalist at quarterback with Sanders. You get the viewers on TV if you get Colorado in the playoff. They didn't earn it. I don't think the committee is going to value a sexy quarterback on a 3-loss team over an SEC team with 2 losses or a Big Ten team with 3 losses at the end of the day. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, what I'm hopeful of is that it's not necessarily about one team and one quarterback. It's about the entire conference just getting a lot more shine this year.
I hope that's true.
And the entire conference being looked at in a different light. Because I think the Big 12 is head and shoulders beyond the ACC. There's quite a drop-off from the SEC to the Big 10 to the Big 12. That's what most experts think. However, I looked last year at that Arizona State-Texas game, and they were a ball bounce away, Arizona State, from advancing. And now Texas is the number 1 team in the country and almost won the national championship.
But here's what you're arguing for. I don't think anybody disputes that the Big 12 champion most years can compete with any team from any conference. I think that's...
You and I talk about the depth all the time. I think that, and this is my hope, just to jump in real quick.
So let me push back, though.
Okay.
Iowa State, in the manner in which they lost the Big 12 championship game, did not look like they belonged in the college football playoff last year.
Yes.
Colorado, probably, if the Big 12 was going to sneak 3 teams in last year, Fantasyland, Iowa State probably gets in for being the runner-up. And then Colorado's probably that 3rd team just because of their record and their star power. And Colorado got washed in their bowl game against another team from the conference. So that just doesn't. It just doesn't.
And by the way, to your point, To your point, Colorado played everybody in that game too, so it wasn't like one of those mail-ins. Yeah.
So like the Big 12 just does not have much of a leg to stand on. I agree with you. The Big 12 champion, whoever emerges from this conference, Baylor, Arizona State, Iowa State, Tech, whoever it is going to have a shot to make the Final Four. Like, they're not just going to make the playoff. They're going to have a shot to win a couple games in the playoff. Absolutely. But does the third team in the Big 12 have that same cachet? I don't think so.
Here's my hope.
I could be wrong. I don't think so.
Here's my hope that there are two teams, right, that sort of run through the conference like a hot knife through butter, right? Maybe accruing one loss, and then maybe one non-con loss, right? And then you get to the championship game, and both of those teams, regardless of who wins, get in. And then you have a team like Baylor, who maybe, let's say Baylor loses to either Auburn or SMU, and then loses one or two games during the regular season in the Big 12, they still maybe get in. I believe that could happen. I think there could be two teams with complete star power, right, that roll through the conference and the non-conference and are ranked in the top 10, top 15, that face off in the Big 12 title game. And then there's another one that squeezes in because of the notoriety and the accomplishment of the other two and a different perspective on the Big 12. I believe this conference really has what it takes to punch with some of the best in the country. And to what you say all the time, which you seem to have abandoned that right now, is that this is a very deep conference. Like you've always said, like the 8th team in the Big 12 is better than the 8th team in the SEC.
I do believe that, but I don't think Iowa State last year could have beaten any of those other teams in the playoff.
I agree, but that's last year. I think the conference is better this year. I really do, all the way around. I really believe that. And I don't think it's better to the point where it's going to be a slugfest and teams are going to beat the crap out of themselves. And I'm going to be on Inside the 12 every week talking about parity and close games. I think I'm going to be talking about, like, look at this, Texas Tech and let's say Arizona State, once again, ranked in the top 15. You know, they're both headed for, and then, you know, and they're moving up and up. I think that
so here's just the unfortunate reality, though, Pete. It's not just about who's worthy to get in. It's who are you leaving out. In order for the Big 12 to get multiple teams, you're going to have a lot of the top SEC teams or the top Big 10 teams pull in Alabama last year. And by that, I mean, you're going to need some of those teams to have 2 losses on their resume that they cannot explain. Bottom line with Alabama is a 3-loss Alabama might have gotten in last year. The problem is 2 of their losses were to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma had their worst season in 30 years, and Vanderbilt was Vanderbilt. And so, you know, you're going to need some of those teams to kind of like collapse, I think, if you're the Big 12. Because, it's not just about who's worthy to get in. It's you've got to convince this committee that the SEC doesn't deserve 4 teams, that the Big 10 doesn't deserve 3 to 4 teams. And the way that these preseason rankings are shaped up and just the perceptions, I don't see how you do that unless there's like 3 Alabamas this year that lose to bad teams.
Well, I agree.